Join the conversation as USA Carry's Luke McCoy and Concealed Nation's Brandon Curtis talk with USCCA's Rob Pope about his real-life experience with robbers and the importance of being responsible even when your home or business is under attack. It's happening more often these days, and you have to be prepared to protect when necessary, but willing to prevent a physical, legal, and moral battle if possible. Regular training is the key to controlling how you react and making the right choices in any self-defense incident. In this broadcast, you will understand the value of avoiding armed conflict. You'll learn why instinct without discipline is dangerous, and you'll discover the 3 things every gun owner needs to act with confidence. At the USCCA, we're taking Safer at Home to the next level with our $20,000 Ultimate Home Defense Makeover. Join now and you could win a full home preparedness audit with expert Jason Speller. This prize package also includes a security system, emergency supplies, training, and more.
What's going on? This is Luke with USA Carry, and today I'm with Brandon from Concealed Nation and Rob Pope from the USCCA, and we're going to be talking about 2 break-ins that he had at his business, which is close to his home, about 200 yards from his home, and kind of going over that and looking at some security footage of the incident. So,
thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate you bringing me on. My business, my shop, is about 200 feet from my house. So it's right next door. I live out in a rural area. So we've got a training center and gun range where we do a lot of firearms instruction and training out there. And we do handle some transfers for guns and special orders. So we do have an FFL. And back on May 11th, about 1 o'clock in the morning, I was laying awake in bed reading. And I heard a car pull up out on the road out front. The shop has a gated driveway, so you can't get into it unless you got a code. And I heard the car pull up and stop out on the road, which is unusual in our area. So it caught my attention. I got out of bed to see what was going on, walked up to the front of the house and looked out the front window and kind of opened the window to see if I could hear what was going on. So you'll see on the video here, they're walking up from the road where they parked their car. And these guys come up. I heard one of them say, "Break that," and then I started hearing the smashing, and I stuck my head out the window. Right at this point here, I'm now starting to yell at these guys. My house is about 200 feet off to the right from the video that you're watching there, and I'm watching out my bedroom window, these guys busting into my shop, and started yelling at them, telling them to get out of there. Emotions kicked in. I started, thinking about, what could I do to stop these guys or to intervene? Whether it was the rifle sitting in front of my feet by the window there, or running out the front door and trying to confront them in between the car and the shop. And fortunately, my training, the amount of training I do and keeping up to date on things and stuff kicked in, and I didn't get involved. So inside the video here, you can see these guys when they break in, they jump in through the window and end up running around inside of our classroom. I'm expecting to find a bunch of display cases full of guns, which we actually did used to carry, but we just handle transfers and special orders now. We don't stock anything. We do have a number of rental and loaner guns in the facility for classes that are locked up in a vault where these guys can't get to them. But they come in, they run around, wondering where everything's at, smash a display case, and then leave with nothing. But watching all of this happen live, I really wanted to get involved, and fortunately training kicked in and said, no, that's not what you do. So my wife and daughter and my wife was on the phone with 911 because I had her call 911 as soon as I figured out what was going on, and we just got fortified in the bedroom and prepared to defend the house if we had to, if they decided to come there next. So they didn't have access to anything out there, but I figured, I'm like, well, if they're not happy with what they get there, what if they come here?
They didn't seem too happy with what they got from in there. And part of the video, you can hear them asking, "Where's everything at?" And then they break
Where
the
is
display.
everything?
Yep, you can hear,
Right.
where is everything? There ain't, crap in here, and they're running around in circles, kind of lost in the middle of a classroom when they were expecting
Right.
to walk into a room full of display cases full of guns. I guess I'm fairly certain that that's what they were after, because when they didn't find any guns, they bailed out and left. I mean, the whole thing was done in less than a minute. It seemed like it took forever, but it was 53 seconds, I think, is from the time
Really?
they approach the building to the time they're leaving.
That happened so quick. So this happened at night, correct?
Yeah, 1 o'clock in the morning.
1 o'clock in the morning. And at the time that this was going on, did you have any idea as to how many people were involved in this?
I did not. I only knew that there was at least four, because when I was watching them bust into the shop from out the window and stuff, I could clearly see four people. So I knew there was at least four. It turned out there was actually six. Found out after the fact from law enforcement that there was a sixth guy that was out at the car as a lookout. And five of them actually approached the building. Three of them actually entered the building when they broke in through the door.
Wow.
So how hard was the decision to not pick up your AR or anything or another gun and go after them?
My AR was sitting right in front of my feet when I was looking out the window at this happening. So I'll tell you, it was tough. I really, my emotions kicked in, and emotionally I wanted to. My first thought was to grab the rifle and lay some rounds downrange at these guys. That was my very first thought. And then my second thought was, no, I need to catch them. And I actually was playing through my head of running out the front door of the house and meeting them between the shop and their car. And
Right.
obviously now I know that there was actually a person at the car, which I didn't, wasn't even thinking about that at that time. And it took me a second, to put myself into check and say, no, listen, this is not what you teach people. You teach people not to do that stuff. Don't be that guy.
Right.
So that training finally kicked in and said, nope, there's nothing out there that's worth my life or my livelihood to go out there to try to put myself into a situation that could go bad. As an instructor, one of the things I teach all of my students is I guarantee you will win 100% of every violent confrontation you're not involved in. So by putting myself into that violent confrontation, there's no guarantee that I'm going to win, the physical fight or potentially the legal fight then that might follow.
Yeah, and we see that a lot with some of the stories Brandon and I cover, people running out to protect their cars from being stolen and stuff like that. So just don't put yourself into those situations if you don't have to, right?
All the time we see that stuff and we write about it. And I've heard multiple people say, oh, every ounce of me wanted to stop what was going on. But these particular people that I spoke with, level heads prevailed. They stayed inside. They were in no immediate danger at the time, but they were ready. If somebody came through that door, then that would be a different story. So I'm glad to hear that level head prevailed and you got your everything together and stayed inside. I think that was definitely the right thing to do.
Because of the video footage that we had, we're able to identify gloves and the backpack and a bunch of other stuff that those guys had on when they broke into our shop. So they're able to get DNA off of that. They did end up busting one of the guys and got a confession out of him. They're still working on trying to get the other ones and pick them up and stuff, but at least one guy's got turned over to the prosecutor's office with a confession for breaking into the place.
And they've been hitting a lot of other gun stores as well, this group?
Yeah, that's what the state police were talking to me about, is saying that they believe it's and obviously now that they picked one up, they're fairly certain it's a group of adolescents, I guess you could say, younger gentlemen and stuff that aren't quite gentlemen, that have been hitting gun shops and cell phone stores all over West Michigan, basically.
Yeah, we had the same thing around here right at the beginning of the stay-home orders. They had a group of adolescents hitting gun stores. multiple times, and I think they just caught 2 of them earlier this week. So it's interesting. So how was the police response time for your first incident since you were home?
We were on the phone with police before they actually even made entry into the building. And from the time we made the phone call until the time that the state troopers showed up at our place and stuff was 13 minutes. So we're out in a rural area, so it's, they're coming from a long ways away. It's not that they were even busy, or anything like that. I mean, they were an immediate response. They just had that far to go to get there, and it's
right.
I live up in a rural area. It's one of those things that you kind of think that, hey, I'm up in the rural, in the boonies and stuff. Nobody, messes around with anything up here, and you don't have any types of these problems. But, I think that a lot of times you see the criminal element realize that police response time is much slower up in those rural areas just because they're so much further away. So,
Right.
don't let your guard down just because you live out in the boonies type thing.
This happened the second time, right? Just
Correct.
recently.
We had 20 days later, we had a different group that broke into the facility. There was 8 of them that broke in that time. They did less damage than the first group. They were a little dumbfounded by the fact that the door had a piece of wood in it and it wasn't glass anymore because it was still boarded up from the first one. Same result too. It's actually the interior video almost looks like it's the same incident because they do literally the same thing. They run around in a circle. They just come in from a different access point. They came in through a window on the second one. But we weren't there. I was out of town that weekend when that one happened, so I wasn't aware that it happened until after the fact when I got alerted through the alarm company and stuff. So they left very little evidence. Those guys did leave a hammer behind, so they've got that, but not as much evidence on the second one as there was the first, as far as being able to figure out who the guys were. So. Those guys were not nearly as organized either. They were kind of a bit of a cluster, just not knowing what was going on.
Right.
At one point, they're standing in front of one of the cameras arguing about who was supposed to bring the flashlight. So,
going through your mind after this had happened, they had already gone, waiting for police to arrive. Did it feel like an eternity?
The whole entire incident felt like an eternity. It's the video is 53 seconds from when they approached the building until when they were running away. Man, that felt like it was like 10 minutes. It just felt like it was forever that those guys were there. And then, even leading up to waiting for the police to arrive and everything, it seemed like it took forever. I'd have swore it'd have been an hour before the police showed up, but it was obviously 13 minutes. So, but it did seem like it. The adrenaline gets pumping. That's slow motion time that sets in. That's even part of what we train in with our classes that we teach.
Nothing terrible happened. Nobody was injured. You and your family were safe. What do you think if things did escalate? What's the benefit of having something like a USCCA membership?
Well, the USCCA membership, is kind of like a 3-legged stool. The training that they offer through the classes that instructors across the country teach. And then the education that you can get through the USCCA's website, through your member portal, you get tons of training and educational videos that help train you for the mindset. Because you can go out to the range and shoot all the time and become an expert marksman, but that's not going to help you in that decision-making process when those emotions are kicking in. And you need to check yourself and make proper decisions. So a lot of the videos and the training that the USCCA offers to their members through the member portal really helps get you into that mindset where you can put your emotions in check and make proper decisions because you've thought about it, you've processed the information, you've got a plan, those types of things. So the training and education benefit of the membership is huge. And well worth the cost of membership. And then the third leg of the stool is the legal protection, that if those guys did happen to come at my house and I had to defend myself, then I had the power of the USCCA and that confidence and stuff that they were there to back me in that second fight. I could win the first fight, the physical fight, but then, there's always that potential legal battle that comes after the fact, and that's where the USCCA steps in with the legal protection that we offer.
Now you can get a free Simply Save camera and 2 free months if you sign up, which you've got security footage, so that kind of
That's, you know, for those, yeah, those that sign up with the USCCA, you know, through this video and stuff, that Simply Safe package, you know, that what you guys are seeing from my facility is, you know, that's, you get the camera, you get the, you know, the security system, you get all of that. So you've got the evidence, you've got the alert system that gets you, you know, notified and stuff when you do have an issue. You know, if you're at home and you've got your alarm system armed, you know, the alarm system's not going to stop the bad guy, but there's two things that it really does is, you know, the alarm goes off and that's going to alert you so that you can prepare to deal with that situation, so you don't just wake up in the middle of the night and somebody's standing over you in your bed, you know, while you're laying in bed.
Right.
You get that alert that there's somebody in the home, and it also then automates the contacting of law enforcement so that you can just deal with the threat and have that just be taken care of already for you automatically. So there's huge benefits to having some form of a security system, and I mean the Simply Safe is a great one, and it adds that, you know, the camera footage and stuff similar to what you see, you know, from my shop. I mean it's a huge benefit. I have, you know, I don't only have cameras around my you know, our training center in the range. I have cameras all over around my house too, you know, front and back, and you know, and everything, to make sure that I've got a good view of what's going on around my house, you know, when I'm not there or even when I am there. You know, if I'm laying in bed and I hear that bump in the night, I don't have to go through my house and wander around trying to figure out what it is. If it's something outside or whatnot, I can pick up my phone and pull up my camera feed and look at what's out front, look at what's out back, and, you know, and do a check of my home while I'm still in my safe room, and being able to prepare to defend myself without putting myself in danger by wandering around where people can easily see me and target me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and having the video system in this day and age, they're available, and especially with something like this, it's a no-brainer for me, and it's such an important part of a home security system. And Rob, real quick, do you feel that your training, did it kick in immediately when this stuff was happening?
It kicked in pretty quick. Like you know, with the whole slow motion time, you know, it seemed like it took forever before it kicked in, because I mean I probably had made 3 different plans in my head of how I was going to deal with these guys that were not a proper plan. They were an emotional one.
Right.
Sure.
You know, before I started putting myself in check and said, nope, okay, we're not going to intervene, we're not going to get involved, we're going to, you know, fortify, you know, prepare to defend myself in the home in case they did come there. So we were ready and on our toes for that if it did happen. Thankfully it didn't. Very appreciative of those guys just go ahead and leaving after they didn't find anything, and not deciding to come to my home to try to find something. Because I, you know, while yes, I am prepared and I train and I think I could probably handle that situation if it did happen, I'd rather not. You know, if I can avoid it, I'm going to avoid it at any chance I get. So I'm glad they didn't. But that was when the training kicked in, that's what it was, is boom, okay, let's, you know, my wife, my daughter, you know, who's 12, was in the home with us at the same time. She was obviously woken up by the commotion, got her into our room, got everything locked down, and got prepared to deal with anything if they did happen to come to the house. So.
Yeah. When anybody ever asks me about things like USCCA, should I do it? Should I not? I try to. I would love for them to see a video like this, because, like we said, even though you didn't have to make any decisions. You know, they didn't come into the house. Nothing really terrible happened. But if it did, there would be so many things that you prepare for. Right? You're armed. You're trained. You do all this stuff to prepare. And then if something bad does happen, what can you do to make things easier on yourself, your family afterwards, if you did have to, you know, go down a certain route? And that's where I say, you know, here's the example. You have a place like USCCA, if you have a membership, and then they're going to take care of a lot of stuff afterwards. And you just had, you know, this crazy stressful situation. They're going to take a lot off your plate, help you, walk you through that stuff. So I think it's really important.
That, you know, having that phone number on the back of your member ID card that you can just call, and that's answered 24 hours a day, 365 days a year by our critical response team, who's highly trained to deal with what happens next, you know, and walk you through what do you need to do, how do you need, you know, how do you need to do it, get you in contact with, with an attorney and get those bills paid, and so you don't have to worry about that, you being the victim of a crime and then you have to turn around then and outlay the funds in order to protect your livelihood after the fact. That's just horrible. And the USCCA, that's what they do. I mean, they protect you for the aftermath of what comes after an act of self-defense. And that to me is huge. Obviously I work for the USCCA now, but part of the reason I work for the USCCA is because I wholeheartedly believe in what they do and what they offer. I've been a member of the USCCA for 8 years. I've worked for them for 6 months. I've been part of this organization as a member, for long before I started working for them. And obviously I work for them because I believe wholeheartedly in what they do. I mean, I've had the membership for quite a long time, and now I've been an instructor for them for 4 or 5 years. And now I work as an outside sales rep in the state of Michigan. So helping people understand the benefits of the membership and why it's so critical to have that protection and just have that confidence that that if you're the victim of a violent confrontation of any form and you're forced to defend yourself, you've got a phone number to call and you've got a whole team of people that are going to be there to back you up, to make sure that you get the proper representation and you get the funding necessary to pay for those things that you need to do, so that you're not, losing everything you've ever worked for because you were a victim of a violent confrontation.
Right.
Right. Yeah. It's peace of mind in one of the most stressful times in someone's life if they're going to need something like that. So glad to hear everything worked out all right and nobody was injured. So
right.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. So I'm very glad that they chose not to come to the house. So something I don't ever want to have to do, but it is something you have to plan for and train for and be ready for.
All right. Thanks, Rob, for being our guest this week. Appreciate it.
Yes, Rob. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys, for having me on.
And you can find USA Carry at usacarry.com, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at USA Carry. Brandon, where can people find you?
You can find Concealed Nation. You can go to concealednation.org, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, all those places. Just search Concealed Carry. And we do a live show, Luke and I. It's called CCX2. Every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So be sure to check those out. We stream to 5 different locations. You can hit up pretty much anything related to USA Carry or Concealed Nation. We'd love to have you join us for one of those.
Cool. See y'all next week.
At the USCCA, we're taking Safer at Home to the next level with our $20,000 Ultimate Home Defense Makeover. Join now and you could win a full home preparedness audit with expert Jason Speller. This prize package also includes a security system, emergency supplies, training, and more.